podcast is absolutely stoked to be joined today by Chenzo from Cali High podcast on the left coast all the way in Cali. Chenzo, how you doing today, brother?
I'm doing great, Roots, and you?
I'm doing really great. Sunshiny day here.
It's a sunny day in Southern California, and Cali High podcast is so stoked to be with you in the trees.
Cool. Yeah.
And this is the first of our East-West collabs. So
very nice.
I'm really stoked, bro.
Yeah. All the way up in the Northeast to the Southwest.
From the state of Maine to Southern California, I don't think there's a longer distance across the United States. Maybe from Florida to Washington. I don't know.
Maybe. Yeah. Maybe Key West.
Key West.
To way up in Seattle or something.
Yeah, right by Whidbey Island there.
Right.
So, how did you get into cannabis?
Well, I got into cannabis as a result of my teenage girlfriend introducing me to something that she had smoked a few other times. She was the daughter of a couple who managed a canoe expedition company. So they took on an intern who I'm assuming she got the herb from, because we smoked with him for the very first time. And so, it was great to see, like, I'm sure back then there wasn't really names, because this would have been 95 was the first time I smoked. And all I remember was I actually got stoned the first time.
Yeah.
We ended up.
So did I.
Some people say they didn't get stoned. I know.
They didn't
stoned.
inhale. They didn't. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, I definitely inhaled, and I definitely got stoned, and then we went in and watched Alice in Wonderland, and we were worried that our cover was blown because we were watching Alice in Wonderland. So.
Wow. That is cool.
But then getting into growing cannabis, that was a whole other. That was in '99. Was my first plant. I was gifted a plant in September. I had started renting an apartment in Bangor, and a friend of mine that had been camping out on a road called Crooked Road in Bar Harbor, Maine, he said, these people abandoned a bunch of 5-gallon buckets with plants in them, and they look like hell. Is there anything you can do with them? Do you want one of them? And I said, yeah, sure, man. I have a closet. So I accepted one of these plants and brought it into the closet and put 2 fluorescent fixtures, 4-foot fixtures leaning against it, and a small fluorescent fixture above it, and grew it out. It was a strain called Burnham Red Eye.
Burnham Red Eye. Wow. Never heard of that.
That's it was named after a town here in Maine, and I have a picture of it. It looks like a Charlie Brown Christmas tree. The thing, it just looks like hell, man. But I was so proud of that plant. I grew it to fruition. I harvested flower from it. I harvested a 1/4 ounce of flower
out of a 5-gallon pot.
Out of a 5-gallon pot, and
that's cool.
We cut it down, dried it out as best we could. I mean, I was a much younger guy then, and I got to share it with people. That was a turning point for me as a gardener.
Yeah.
To grow,
to be able to turn
out.
people onto your own bud.
Yeah. It was beautiful to share bowl packs of that. Yeah. And of course, with the price of herb back then, as you well remember, $50 an eighth was standard.
Oh yeah.
I mean,
at a certain point, yeah. When I started smoking, it was $10 a lid, which was like a short ounce, probably. You get like 4 fingers. It was a 4-finger. I got a 5-finger lid today. Wow.
Right.
And that was how high it stacked from the bottom of the bag.
A 5-finger lid would have been.
Then they went
a
up to 15.
One. Oh.
That was probably 26 years before you smoked your first bud.
Probably. Yeah.
Back then there were no buds grown in domestically. No buds grown in California. Probably maybe somebody that we didn't know about, but there was none for sale or readily available. So we smoked. First buds I remember smoking were Oaxacan, and then there was other states in Mexico that had great weed at the time. I remember we had a connection, this Mexican connection. He was a good guy. We'll call him Juan Soto.
Nice. Yeah.
And he had Zacatecas, Guerrero, and Colombia. Oh, no, the Colombian came later. That's not Mexican. Oaxacan, Zacatecas, Guerrero, Guadalajaran, and Michoacan.
Oh, yeah.
Michoacan, I think is how it's pronounced. Yeah, they were all great buds. And then we used to get hash from Afghanistan, Lebanon, Morocco, Nepal, and my least favorite was Pakistan because it was like government hash and it was like low quality. But and then after that we got Colombian weed from like the 70s, 75 to late 70s, 8, 9. And then there was Thai weed. Thai weed was the first available seedless bud. It was tied on little sticks about this big. They ranged in size, but the best ones were on small sticks. And they were like the grayish green, spicy buds that went great with Thai food. What do you know?
Right.
And so, and then gradually, after the Colombian got shut down in the late 70s by the Coast Guard, people started growing weed in California. It was called Sense of Man without seeds. And it went from 500 a pound to 2,000 a pound. 500 for the good, like Colombian, up to 2,000 for the Sense of Man. But anyway,
so indoor flower was kind of where I think I came into growing cannabis when indoor grown had started to gain a small foothold. There was some traction there with people setting up rooms in the late 80s, early 90s, mid 90s. It was tough to find horticultural lighting because in Maine back then we didn't have grow stores. There was a Worms Way in Massachusetts. That's like from Bangor that would have been like a 6-hour drive,
6-hour drive from one end of Maine to the other.
Yeah,
or from Massachusetts up to Bangor.
Down to Mass. Yeah.
So you were living in Bangor?
Yeah, I was actually living real close to Stephen King. That's where I grew my first plant, like less than a quarter mile away from Stephen King's house. So
was it a spooky experience?
His house is kind of spooky. He's got a nice wrought iron gate with some dragons on it and stuff. Yeah, but he's done a lot for the city of Bangor. Tip of the cap to Stephen King. And
That's cool.
One thing that he did, he put a park in for the city of Bangor with a basketball. It's all behind his house essentially, but basketball courts, baseball diamond, playground for the kids. So friends of mine, we would go down there and hang out from time to time. And what struck me about that place was looking up at a metal halide light on a pole and being like, how do we get that thing down so we can move that to the closet?
Yeah. Well, that's interesting. So I know you used to come to Cali frequently in your youth, didn't you?
Yeah. I've been to Cali a bunch. I love the state of California. I love how diverse it is. There's a lot of different regions, and I've traveled around most all of them. I've been where you're at now, SoCal. I lost a Volkswagen bus outside of San Diego, for instance. It broke down and limped it into a used car dealership and got taken advantage of in El Cajon. I think the guy gave me $150, $200 for my van. I needed money.
Those were the days.
Those are the days, yeah. And I ended up in Southern Humboldt and Mendocino for a little while, and then Southern Humboldt. I hitchhiked into that section of California and spent the night under a bridge outside of Redway, the road that goes to Shelter Cove, and ended up going into Redway to a coffee shop that morning and I had just a little bit of flower because I'd been working at a place called Church of the Living Tree, which that was in Leggett. My friend had gotten a job there. It was just a bunch of hippies hanging out at this guy's house, and you know, he had an early vaporizer with a Makita heat gun that he would heat up, and you know, we'd all smoke and hang out and cook communal dinners. Fast forward to a few years ago, I looked up Church of the Living Tree because they were doing something really interesting. They were taking stalks from area growers and they were pounding them into pulp and making paper out of the stalks. And, you know, fine paper, that hemp paper back in the, you know, this would be the late 90s, early 2000s. They would bring it down to fine paper stores in the city in San Francisco and sell it to them. And so I got to see that process. And of course, being a boy from down East Maine that was on the west side, all of a sudden seeing a 99 plant grow in 2002 kind of blew my mind. You know, you know, wow, these guys can grow to scale. You know, like I mentioned, I'd seen a Charlie Brown Christmas tree plant in a closet, you know. At that point, I've seen a marginal amount of herbs. So seeing what Humboldt had going, or Mendocino rather, had going on back then was very profound. Anyways, I left that farm. I had a little bit of herb from doing some work there that I'd traded for, and ended up going to Redway. I was told that you could get a job up on the hill. There's a lot of work up there. So I ended up going into Redway with some of that flour, and there was an old head at the coffee shop just kind of hanging out, I'm sure getting his morning cup of joe, and I kind of struck up some conversation with him, and he said, "Hey, you want to smoke a bowl?" Sure, man. So I put a little bit of my herb into a bowl that I had, and then he capped it off with some nice hash. Oh wow! And I was stoked, you know, like, hey,
homemade.
It must have been his hash. And we smoked and chatted, and he found out I was from Maine. And then next thing I know, he said, you know, how'd you like to have a job? And I said, oh yeah, you know, I'm looking for work. Yeah, you know. And he said, well, I can give you a ride up onto this this place, you know, outside of Harris. And I know a guy that owns a farm up there. He's usually looking for help. And so that's how I ended up there.
Oh, that is cool.
Yeah.
That is very cool. Yeah, so one of the early weed stories that I have, you know, I was selling Colombian in 12th grade, and you know, stashed a few grand aside, and by the end of 12th grade, my brother was telling me there was this guy Bob Marley, and you know, he's a Rastafarian, and he comes from Jamaica, and they smoke weed in Jamaica, and he didn't have to say much more. And so I, like the summer after I graduated, I bought myself a ticket to Jamaica, ended up in Montego Bay, and then found my way to Negril, where I stumbled into a Rastafarian named Reeford Ward, who had a little boombox cassette player, and one cassette he had Naughty Dread, and I rented a little tent on the sand under some palm trees at the Negril Yacht Club. Their biggest yacht was a dugout canoe. So anyway, I heard reggae for the first time on the sands of Jamaica, right on the beach there, and blew my mind really. So when I came home, I turned everybody onto it. But while I was there, I met a guy named Rick Hirschman. He owned Rick's Cafe in the Grill. And so we became friends. And then, you know, I came back. And the next year, he called me up during summer. And it was just before summer. It was like spring. And so I flew to Miami and bought 36 pounds of Colombian. It was a good brownish green. Although the best Colombians were kind of like, I had like blocks that were this color, red.
Okay, yeah.
I had them gold. I mean yellow gold. But anyway, let's not get into the specifics of the Colombian just at the moment. However, so I flew to Miami, with my 2 brand new Samsonite suitcases, stuffed them with the weed, and came back. No problem with the airport. They didn't have X-rays back then. And anyway, that was the last, one of the last loads of some Colombian. I got one or two more after that locally. But so I was back with the weed, and I was living in Laurel Canyon, and then I went down for lunch at the local health food store. It was called The Source on Sunset Boulevard. And I see these 2 guys with dreads, and I say, "Hey, you guys Rastafarians from Jamaica?" And they're like, "Yeah." I say, "Hey, you want to come back to my house and smoke a spliff?" And they're like, "Sure." So they came back with me to my house in Laurel Canyon, about a mile away, and we smoked a big spliff of the Colombian that I had brought back with from Miami. And these guys were Cat Corey and Richie Daly of Third World, the guitar and bass player.
Legends.
Probably one of the longest lasting Third World, reggae bands. And they just had a new album produced by Damian Marley.
Nice.
So I've stayed in touch with him. I did a little episode with Richie Daly a few months back there, just after this COVID thing hit. And, that's kind of one of my stories.
That's awesome. Yeah. Those guys, Third World,
Mm-hmm.
I play for my sons to show them some real good drumming and a good performance. I play them Third World's rendition, or I play them Third World's 96 Degrees from Reggae on the River. Yeah.
Real hot.
Yeah. And Cat Corey comes in with this beautiful white acoustic guitar, and he's picking on that in the beginning to lead in, and that version right there, it's on YouTube. I'll send you a clip.
Excellent.
Man, it's next level. They light up the crowd with that song. Yeah. Yeah.
So, they had come to California in 2012, and they still had Bunny Ruggs as their lead singer. And, a funny story about Bunny Ruggs and Third World. They came up to, I had moved from Laurel Canyon up into an apartment in Bel Air, and it was about a year after I met them, and they came up, and after a performance, I think it was somewhere in Hollywood, I can't remember, it was Santa Monica and Crescent Heights. There was a little place there, I can't remember. Anyway, so they came up, and Bunny Ruggs goes, "Can I roll a spliff?" I'm like, "Sure." And, at the time, it was the $2,000 Sensimilla, right? So like ounces for like 200 or whatever. Anyway, I gave him the bag, and he rolled like half an ounce into a spliff, and I didn't say anything because I'm trying to be a good host, but right. I saw him in 2012, and we got a big laugh out of that, and I told him. Anyway, so I was able to turn him on to some buds, but then I saw him like 6 months later, and Bunny had passed, and A.J. Brown is now their lead singer, a very capable guy, very nice singer.
Rest in peace to Bunny, for sure.
So you play drums, reggae drums as well?
Yeah. It was around... Let's see, it would have been around 99, 2000. It would have been more like 98, 99 that my first reggae album that I really latched on, like true Jamaican reggae album, was Kaya, Bob Marley's Kaya album. The band Sublime did a ton for me early on, and Bud Gaw from Sublime is a huge influence on my drumming. That guy, he comes down hard on that snare, and he I love his flow. He's just a really great drummer. But as soon as I heard Carlton Barrett on that Kaya album, it blew my mind, and I'm hearing these snare sounds that I was like, how does he do that? And just his whole production sound just blew my mind, and I became obsessed with trying to figure out how,
his brother Austin wrote a lot of those songs in the early days. Yeah.
And I still tell people about that relationship right there. I'm like, how do you top a rhythm section where those two are brothers?
Yeah.
Like, you got deep connections there, deep roots, like a whole childhood of emotions and lifestyle and living life. It's
Their
going
kids
into
are
the music.
keeping the tradition going too.
That's right. Yeah, Carlton's son sounds a lot like his father on the drums. Yeah, or is it his nephew? I could be wrong.
I'm not sure. I think I follow Austin Barrett Jr.
Okay.
I don't know if I follow Carlton's son.
Yeah, it could be his nephew too. I could be getting that wrong.
So what were some of your favorite, like, old reggae hits or albums and groups and some of the new ones?
I love Horace Andy. I love the earlier reggae.
Yeah.
I guess you call it rock steady. You could call it rockers. You know, I love that era right there of reggae. I think that's, in my opinion, is the truest form.
We're talking late 60s, early 70s. Is that what
I think it'd be early 70s, early to mid 70s. And like I've over the years I've bought videos, you know, DVDs, like the Soul Syndicate band, Word Sound and Power. That DVD blew my mind. Seeing some of the pros doing what they do, and my drumming style changed and has evolved over time to incorporate a lot of like the snare work from Carlton and some of the just off time kicks and accents that a lot of these players work with.
I'm anxious to do a East-West collab on the music too, bro. I've been looking for a reggae drummer for a long time.
Oh, nice. Yeah, that'd be sweet. So you need to find that bass foundation. That's
the bass is really important. I gotta say, you know, my old lead singer from Soy Cowboy learned to play a reggae bass. Joe Ramersa.
Nice.
Plays it on our theme song.
Oh, great, man. Yeah. That sounds great. It's a vibe. It's a certain feeling that goes into that reggae bass. It pumps. You know, like that's part of that water pumpy. It's part of that cool and deadly sound that they put out. It's gotta move, and I feel like reggae has a hypnotic rhythm that as someone, if you dance, you can rely on the rhythm. You can attach your hip to that bass and that kick drum, and you can move to it. It's meant to move you.
Yesterday I was listening to the Live at the Roxy album, Bob Marley's. Starts off with Trenchtown Rock. It's got such a groove. Yeah. And the groove, his live show is such an amazing groove. It's just, you should check that album out.
I have, and I What You Want, was it Heathen? Now you get what you want until you want more.
Want More. Want More is the name of the song. Yeah, we were listening to that. That's on there too.
Man, Aston's pumping out that bass on there.
It's
loud. Yeah. He's leading the charge.
Yeah. So what about new reggae?
Reggae, you know, I'm not up on the real new reggae. I hear a lot of stuff. Like I did see Jesse Royal, and I guess he's not super new. My friend has a reggae festival here in Maine that he puts out, a Greenwood Roots and Culture Revival, it's called. And so he got Jesse Royal to come here and play.
Yeah. Hey, are you familiar with any of the artists on Ineffable Records? Like,
yes.
Yeah. Stick Figure, Collie
Yes.
Buds.
Yeah, those are great acts. And actually, I think it's Green Lion Crew here from Maine is signed to that label.
Oh, how cool.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure about that.
I'm talking Adam Gross into doing an interview with me. He keeps saying he's going to do it. So
cool, man.
I'm looking forward to that. That'll
definitely
be fun. How about Protege?
Protege, yeah, he's a great artist. Yep.
You know whose son he is?
No.
Lorna Bennett. Do you remember Lorna Bennett?
I think
Breakfast in bed.
Oh yes, yeah, nice. Wow,
Guess
interesting.
It's on me.
Right. Yeah, so the new reggae, I feel like there's been a lot of dancehall changed reggae a lot. You know, you get a different rhythm structure than that one drop rhythm. You know, it's kind of gotten into that boom, boom, cha, boom, boom, cha. You know, that kind of
dancehall rhythm. There's a few variations and a little hip hop influence in there.
Yeah, there's a lot more hip hop influence in reggae, and so then you kind of bring in like Vibes Cartel and Movado and some of those cats. When you kind of start bringing in more of the hip hop influence, I feel like it's changed reggae. It's added other elements, but it's gotten away from like that rockers vibe that I like that roots reggae.
Yeah,
you know?
Yeah.
So there's like a time and a place for it with me. I like it, but
Yep.
I'll put it this way. I'm not going to play it in my garden for my plants.
Yeah. Speaking of garden, and is there an outdoor growing season in Maine?
Oh yeah, man.
Really?
For sure. Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah.
What is it? Like spring to October or what?
Yeah, that would be your full term. So in regards to an outdoor growing season, you can get 3 to 4 light depths here in Maine, similar to Cali.
Yeah.
And a lot of genetics that have been bred up in Mendo and on the Humboldt coast have actually translated really well to how they're grown here in Maine, especially on the coast. I've been working with some genetics that I got from a local breeder named Bangladesh here, and he gifted me some of Mandelbrot's lines. So
Mandelbrot.
Mandelbrot. He's
Mandelbrot.
from up in Mendo. He was also called Ross Truth. So he's
I think I've heard of that guy.
Yeah, he's famous breeder from back in the day. Put out the Royal Kush. That was his creation, and unfortunately he passed away too young. And his lines though,
R.I.P. Mandelbrot.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, but his lines were bred for resistance against fungal pathogens, and so here on the coast we get that fog that rolls in, just like they do up in Shelter Cove and Honeydew and
you get
Petrolia.
Mold if it stays on the buds. When does the fog come in? What month?
Well, that changes from down east Maine, it's called, to I'm here in mid coast. So down when I was growing up down east, I could sit on an ocean bluff, like a hillside, and I could watch a bank of fog start out on the Atlantic and slowly make its way in. And as soon as it hits you, the temperature drops 10 degrees and the humidity goes up like 20 to 30%, and you're just living in a cloud at that point. And that's where, if you get too dense of a bud, it'll start
molding.
It'll start molding.
Rotting.
So some of these, some of these really nice buds that Mandelbrot was working with had a little bit more of a loose structure to them, and they were terpene rich, and they just had resistance built into their lines, and that was something that I feel like he was intentionally breeding for. So they've translated really well over here. Not just them. The East Coast is rich in cannabis history, brother. Like, Chem Dog, all the whole Chem Dog families from the Northeast here.
And you have a legal grow there?
I do. Yeah, a medical grow still.
A medical grow, yeah. I do have the same, yeah.
Nice. We just went adult use. It just went into effect in October.
Oh, wow.
So we're
good luck.
Thanks,
good luck on
man.
that. What kind of strains have you been growing?
I have some proprietary strains that I've held for a while.
I'll trade seeds.
A lot of them are clone onlys, but I do make seeds. Yeah, for sure. I'd love to trade some seeds with you. And so I have some Mandelbrot work that I'd love to get to.
Oh, wow. That would be amazing.
Yeah.
I've grown a few clones.
Oh, nice.
And I grew them. They were OGs. They were, what were they? Louis OG, Louis the 13th OG. And I crossed it with some Landrace Afghani. But
nice.
The Landrace Afghani has been kind of a disappointment. It's not like our breeds here. It's kind of deteriorated. It's low in potency. However, the high is singular. It's focused and interesting. So when I did make some hash out of the Afghani, it actually tasted like the old Afghani hash.
Nice.
It wasn't quite as strong though.
Yeah, and a lot of times with the Afghanis, if they're landrace or if they haven't been selected from, that's where you kind of run into. It's a hit or miss. You could get.
I know. I have between my Afghanis, each one is completely different. Right. You know what I mean? I had some that smelled like like a diesel or a train wreck, and then some that smelled like more floral, and then some that smelled so dank that you didn't want to smell them. So each one came out different, and they needed to be selectively, gone through. It has to be a pheno hunt. So I'm not up for that in my backyard of small proportion.
Right. Well, I would say that's something that Northern California did for cannabis breeding almost exclusively. Was these large sifts that they were doing. They, you had Tom Hill that apparently was doing 3,000 plant sifts to find what specific intention or direction he wanted from a plant, like Tom Hill's haze, or like some of the haze work he's working with, some of the Kush work. They just select from such a large and vast amount of plants because on the East Coast we don't have these dirt roads that are gated off of a side road that you take the dirt road and you drive 11 miles and then there's a fork in the road and both of them have gates and you choose your own adventure and take a left if you can get through the gate and meet another gate 3 miles down in a ravine, and then some dude comes out with a shotgun and welcomes you into the house and you smoke a bowl and all of a sudden he's got 2,000 plants out there that he's sifting through. Here it's we're like a bit more, there's not that deep a country all over the place like there is up in NorCal.
Right. It's been developed more. Yeah.
Been developed, or it's just completely undeveloped, and there could be there could be a 3,000 plant sift going on, but up in some, we have townships in Maine, township 9-25 or something like that, but nobody's going to know about it,
Are you familiar with Humboldt Seed Company?
Yeah. Their blueberry muffin and some of their strains. Yeah.
Yeah. I think we were talking about that. I interviewed Nat Pennington.
Oh, nice.
The founder, and he sent me some seeds, and so I'm going to probably grow some of those next year. This year, I went to a dispensary here in LA and got some seeds from Purple City Genetics. It was a cross between wedding cake and purple punch, and it turned out fantastic. I've never grown a better bud, and the hash I made from it was top notch. So, and when I interviewed Nat, he said that the science of seeds is becoming so consistent, and I must say that I grew 2 of those plants, and each one of them was exactly like the buds were the same. The smell, they smelled somewhere in between pineapple and apple. It was amazing. But so he says the seeds are so much more consistent than they used to be, and that most people, even indoor grows, are going to end up switching to seeds. That's his prediction. And
I could see that. Well, I think that blueberry muffin's a feminized line, from what I understand. And I think that
So and the ones I got were feminized as well.
So once you get into that, for sure, there's a consistency. Yeah. Yeah. Nice.
So you're just starting out there as far as legally in Maine, and do we have dispensaries in Maine?
Yes, but a select few opened up as adult use kicked off, and it took 4 years for the state to allow this. After the people of the state of Maine voted in adult use, it took the state 4 years to finally, it was just trapped in litigation in Augusta. People were trying, I'm sorry, it wasn't trapped in litigation. It was trapped in legislation. They were trying to figure out how things would go.
How to tax it and make it
how to get their slice
work.
Of the pie, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, California and LA just kind of morphed as it went along. There were some bumps in the road, and there still is. Well, first of all, if you go into a dispensary here in California, you'll meet an armed guard, and most of the armed guards right at the door, or you'll have a receptionist. They take your ID, they enter you into the system, then you wait, and then you go back, and then you place your order. Tax is there's excise tax, sales tax, back end tax on the growers. That's going up this coming 21.
Going up further?
Yeah, so the grower has to pay $9 and it's going up to $9.75 from $9.25 or something like that per ounce of tax. And if it's shake, it's like $2.90, almost $3.
Wow.
Of tax. That's the back end on the grower. And, I might be missing some of this, but I was asking Armin Pronian of LA Cannabis yesterday to kind of get me up to speed on the taxes. And we're paying a total of 34%, something like that, out the door. So if your bud, you're going to buy a $50 eighth, well, your taxes are going to be a little bit over a third of the price. So you're up to 70 now practically. It's prohibitively expensive for some people. You know what I mean?
And it's going to all that cost is going to the consumer. It sounds like as well.
Most of it. Well, on the those 34% that I said, but there's before it even gets to that, there's other people paying taxes. So it all works to raise the price and keep the black market functioning healthily. You know what I mean? A lot of people don't have money to go into a dispensary and pay for high quality plus the tax. You know what I mean? You'd go broke if you were the normal Joe and you smoked heavily.
Or let's take a look at the medical patient who really needs meds. Like they'll go to the medical market, and I don't know if California still has that going on. Do you guys have
we have it, but it just does away with the sales tax, but not all the other taxes. Right. So the sales tax is 9.5 or something like here.
So over the years, I helped out people that had cancer, and I'm not bringing this up to toot my horn at all, because I did it with my heart, but you can't make RSO or FICO and put that into like a suppository, which is how these cancer patients need to take their medication. But you can't do that and then charge them huge amounts of money, because now they can't afford it, and then they have to turn to chemotherapy. That's the only other, when you take a look at the cost, then that's where I worry about these rates when they keep getting inflated more and more, how people who actually really need the medication are going to be able to afford it.
Yeah. Well, when it first was medical back in like 2007, I opened a dispensary in Studio City called Holistic Care of Studio City. It got bought up by LA Cannabis. That's how I have a relationship with them. But, each dispensary kind of like gave away a little bit of their weed to like poor patients and veterans, people who were in need. There was like a more active giving. Now you can't give, right? Because everything's taxed. We have this thing called the metric system that tracks plants from, clone
seed to sale
to fruition, and then to the distributor, and then on to the dispensary. So everything is tracked, and it's a little bit Orwellian.
We're getting ready to roll that out here in Maine. It's starting in January for the adult use program, and there's talk that it's going to be soon thereafter for the medical program. I think it's what you said is exactly correct. We're going to see a resurgence of the black market, because let's face it, I'm from the Northeast. I could talk about it like this. When you overregulate a market, you get the Boston Tea Party. Yeah. You get people that are going to say, nope, I'm going to throw all of your bales of tea into the ocean. And now we've got your attention. And so unfortunately, like they're kind of stepping into a playing field that they didn't help create, and they're trying to overregulate it. And I understand they're calling it legalization, but let's be real, this is not the legalization that I saw happening.
No, I don't think it was the legalization that any of us were hoping for or, thought would be reasonable. It's just become unreasonable.
It doesn't seem like freedom when you have to pay a
giant
bunch of
amounts of tax.
Yeah, exactly.
And I don't even know if maybe the alcohol industry pays large taxes, but whatever. There doesn't seem to be a black market for, whiskey or beer.
Not anymore.
What's up with that?
I mean, they created that back in the 30s, and apparently some people, some families minted themselves off of that. But yeah, but I'm sure that the alcohol industry can afford lobbyists.
Yeah,
and I don't know if the cannabis industry
has them too.
Yet.
Believe it or not.
Right? Yeah. Yeah. No, you're right. They're there.
But the alcohol industry is so much more united and together in their, dealing with the government lobbying,
because they've been in that game for a lot longer.
Plus, they're federally legal, so it's a whole bigger game.
Yeah, it's for sure. You and I could gripe about this this right here for a long time, though.
Well, I hope your Thanksgiving was great, and everybody's been blessed with good health over there.
Certainly, yes. I'm expecting my third son in May, so we're.
Oh wow! Congratulations, bro.
Thank you, brother.
I have 3 too. 40, 30, and 8.
Whoa, a wide range.
Yes.
Nice. Yeah.
Yes.
Many blessings, man. That's fantastic.
Thank you. Yeah. And blessings for the new baby. Do you got a name yet?
Thank you. No, we're tossing around a few, but we're not quite there yet. Yeah. Plenty of time. Yeah.
Well, one of these days, I'd love to come to the East Coast and hang out with you, bro.
I would love that, man. I have an Airbnb that I built. So
really.
It's all ready.
Okay.
Yeah. As soon as this COVID thing gets over,
Yeah. It's kind of, here we're in lockdown in Los Angeles. And last night, Mayor Garcetti, who is like an exemplary leader, he gets on the TV and he gives like the report. But last night, the speech he gave was, it was like FDR or freaking Churchill something. It was like moving. It was really moving.
Like he was trying to be motivational,
to appeal to
stay
the people
positive.
that don't want to take safety measures. He was trying to get the real information out to, and appeal to the people and everybody to do what we need to do to get this thing under control. Yeah. But I don't think our listeners are going to tune in to hear about COVID.
No, they're probably sick of hearing about COVID by now. Yeah,
exactly, bro. It's really depressing.
Right.
So we'll have to go smoke a reefer after we get off this podcast, and I'll think of you.
Oh, nice. Thanks, man.
So
I was gonna get myself primed up.
Cali High is totally stoked to have done this collab with In the Trees podcast all the way in Maine. And thanks, Roots. Thank you very much. We'll do this again, right?
Yeah, for sure. I would love to. Yeah, and I'm really grateful to be on the microphone with you, Chenzo.
It's my honor.
And Cali High is a great podcast, and I love the guests that you have on there. And the connection to reggae. That's something that was there from the start. When I saw what you were doing with that, I was like, that's great. It definitely appealed to me as a reggae drummer.
Yeah, you can't talk about weed without bringing in some reggae.
That's right. Yeah, they kind of go hand in hand.
You know what I mean? It's related culture and art.
For sure. Yeah, so. Reggae prospered the idea of cannabis as well to people.
Like Bob Marley on the cover of the album before Naughty Dread. What was that?
Catch a Fire.
Catch a Fire. That's right. Yeah. Smoking a big spleef.
That's right.
Yeah.
Imagine getting that album in the 70s. Did you? Yeah. If you got that album, you'd have been like, wow, he's putting that out there to the masses worldwide.
Oh yeah, absolutely, bro.
What other acts were doing that? Was there? I mean, Jethro Tull, were they doing that? Who was doing that?
Nobody was smoking on stage. Nobody was fucking, coming out of the closet of their cannabis closets.
No, but Bob Marley was.
Yeah, so we have a lot to thank reggae and Bob Marley for. Mm-hmm. And even Peter Tosh. right?
Peter Tosh with the what album was that?
That was Legalize It album.
Legalize It. Yeah, he's in the cannabis field and
in Jamaica.
Yeah. And then Culture came out with International Herb with that album, and all these songs and all these acts when they were really putting it out there. That also was very appealing about reggae to me, and it sounds like to you as well. Just the relationship with cannabis. Yeah.
Yep. So, Cali High is going to be looking for more reggae artists to speak with. And like I said, we're going to interview Adam Gross of Ineffable Records, and that'll be fun. We also interviewed a cannabis artist by the name of Mohan Sundarasan, who weaves canvas, and then he weaves a weed leaf onto the actual piece. I have a print here that's framed, but the real ones are so amazingly intricate and texturous. They're beautiful. But,
yeah, that's a beautiful piece there. It looks like a tie-dye, but it's woven.
It's the green is the leaf.
Yeah. Nice.
It's very psychedelic. I can't wait to just eat some mushrooms and stare at it. Which I haven't done in like 20 years, but whatever.
Oh, well, just a little ways north of you in Oregon, you could do that and walk down the streets and tell everybody you're doing it. Yeah.
I remember I was in Jamaica once, and I drank some mushroom tea. I'm watching to the north, and I'm seeing lightning bolts light up the sky behind big giant thunderclouds. And I turned to Reefer Ward, and I go, "You ever heard of atomic bombs? I think America's bombing Cuba right now." And I looked at him, and he looked at me like I was crazy, and then I realized, I'm might be too high. Right. I'm like, I just got to Jamaica just in time.
Right. I'm just gonna stay here, man.
Yeah. Anyway, it was really awesome. Great talking with you, Roots.
You as well, Chenzo. Yes, thank you so much, man. Yeah.
Okay, so have a great day, and we'll talk.
That sounds great, man. Yeah, I'm gonna press stop now.
Yeah, me too.